Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald at the Decatur Area Arts Council. What do you think Norman Rockwell, Winslow Homer, and Gary Kelley have in common? Well, all three have been inducted into the Society of Illustrators Hall of Fame. Well, Rockwell and Homer can't be here today, but Kelley is, and he's going to show us his work. Gary Kelley, I was just bragging on you, having been recently voted into the Society of Illustrators Hall of Fame, and with names like Winslow Homer and Norman Rockwell and Wyatt or Wyeth and some others. You're in pretty good company there.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't mean to make you blush or anything, but that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I was. It probably wasn't the one of the goals I had in life, but it's nice to be. The nicest thing about it is that you're recognized by your peers. And that's always been really important to me. You know, somebody said, I think all of us as artists, secretly when we create work, I don't know how much we're creating for the general public and how much we're creating for our peers, you know. I mean, the response of our peers. I mean, it means a lot to me to be appreciated by somebody that knows the nuance of a good painting.
We have a chance to see a lot of your work today. I'm going to ask you to guide us through some of your favorite stuff, and some of it's personal work that you do for yourself. You're a painter as well as an illustrator, which is what you do for clients. But just for the heck of it, just get us started with some of your bigger clients. People would recognize your work that they see in some of these magazines. Yeah, I think probably my favorite client over the years, and I've been doing this for 30 years now, probably. Probably my favorite client over the years has been Rolling Stone magazine, and that's because they usually let you do what you do. They hire you, and then they get out of the way, and you have a page to work with, and you can do whatever you want. They trust you as an artist. So I've worked with them. I had a little run with the New Yorker a few years back. Did a lot of work for Playboy over the years. And we'll see some of that, won't we? Some of the Rolling Stone and the Playboy work.
Right. I've done a number of picture books. We have some of those in the exhibition. I've done the Super Bowl poster image twice. That's always commissioned directly by the NFL. I've done the NBA All-Star Game poster. I was the official artist for the Kentucky Derby in 2002. That's my little sports aside, I guess. Those are fun. And the Atlantic Monthly, magazines like that. It's Time, once or twice for Newsweek. A lot of book covers, a lot of authors that your audience would recognize.
This exhibit here in the Decatur Art Center's name is Blue Notes, is that right? Blue Notes. You've come from a musical family, although you don't play any instruments yourself, but you love music. Your family loves music. It started as a kid for you, I guess. So most of the art in here has a musical theme.
Absolutely.
And while we're on the subject of artwork and illustrations, let's just take a moment to look at some of this and sort of look at the difference in your mind.
Yeah, let's do.
Where do you want to start?
Well, this is actually a pretty good little collection right here. The piece on top is pastel. It's colored chalk on paper. And it was commissioned, or it was done for the Los Angeles Times book review, a book or a review they were publishing in the newspaper concerning or talking about a book that was written on the jazz history of LA.
That is neat, the way that comes to life. Look at those players in the background.
Well, that's the fun for the fun of all of these images for me is arriving at the story I want to tell first, and then figuring out an interesting composition and the way it all kind of works together, the shapes and the colors. We're going to keep coming back to that over and over again. It's all about colors and shapes, values and positive, negative space, push, pull, all that.
And in so many cases, I'm looking to the one to your right now, and this is an oil on canvas.
Right.
This is another instance where this soul is just overtaken by music. You can tell.
Yeah,
you can feel
that's good. I'm glad you see that. This was presented as a as a possibility for the anniversary, 25th anniversary poster for the Monterey Blues Festival, not the Jazz Festival, but the Blues Festival. And I was working on this off and on because it was just, you know, it wasn't a real job yet, but it was something I was going to suggest to them. And I kept trying to figure out how can I bring the birthday party aspect or the celebration of an anniversary aspect into the you know, or pair it up with the essence of the blues. And so my idea, for, you know, and sometimes these ideas take a while to percolate. I mean, this didn't hit me right away. When I did the sketch, it didn't look like this. As I painted it, for some reason I thought, well, you know, the blues is country music essentially. It's southern, you know, black African country music. A lot of blues singers relate to bib overalls, just like we do here in the Midwest. And so how about if we put that together with the white dinner jacket, which kind of maybe says it's a special birthday party or something. And then of course add the, or kind of mix it all up with the soul or the feeling of the harmonica player.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's really neat.
And there's a woman behind him if you look closer.
I sure do. The
I like to
have
little surprises here and there.
Back to the illustrations again, and a large part of what you do is you illustrate books.
Right.
Now, I think that whole process is interesting because I was wrong when I was talking to you earlier. I thought, well, the author of the book and the publisher needed an illustrator, so they came to you and you became a member of the team. But actually, this was your book. You wanted these illustrations in a book, and you went out and found a writer. Yeah. So it's kind of neat the way that works.
And to be honest, it doesn't always work that way. I mean, it's a strange dynamic doing picture books. And I call these picture books rather than children's books because they, I think they're for all ages. This book might be a little tough to understand. Some of the verses and maybe the subtleties in the pictures might be a little tough on say, I don't know, 6th grade or 5th grader or something.
This is the book right here.
You're right.
Of course.
And so this book was something that had been, you know, gnawing away at me for years. I've always been intrigued by the legend that is Robert Johnson. He was a historic figure, and any blues guitar, any rock guitarist. I mean, you ask, I suppose, Eddie Van Halen or Jeff Beck or Clapton for sure, Keith Richards, those guys. You ask them who their hero was, who their god is, and it's Robert Johnson. Now he died in 1938, I think, 1936. I don't remember, but he was poisoned by a jealous husband. But in the meantime, leading up to that, he supposedly sold his soul to the devil. It's the classic Faustian tale. And he supposedly sold his soul to the devil at the crossroad in Mississippi in the 1930s. And I've always wanted to tell that. So I thought that's such a rich, like, kind of bit of folklore. And it just happens to be about one of my favorite subjects, the blues. And I love historic subjects, and the 1930s, Mississippi, the blues, the devil, voodoo,
music.
Oh, yeah, I mean, look at that gumbo there. It's terrific.
This is interesting because how many people picture a guitar player from the back?
Well, see,
you know,
yeah, the thing about this is first recording session. That's the name of the verse that goes with it in the book. Robert actually only recorded 2 albums in his short life, and he never had a hit while he was alive. But when he recorded, and this is probably took place in a hotel room in San Antonio, Texas. And I actually went to the hotel. The hotel, they didn't know anything about it. I mean, that's ancient history to them. They couldn't tell me which room it was or anything, but I was in the lobby. But he would sit in the corner. He would play into the corner of the room. And some speculated that it was because he didn't want the you know, the Mexican musicians waiting for because they had the next gig in the room to play, the next recording session. You didn't want them to see his fingering on the guitar. Other speculation is that he liked the acoustic of singing into a corner and the sound coming back. So that's what made me think of seeing him from the back. And then I introduced the cat as a graphic element down there, and the title, you know, it fits in with the title, terminology, Black Cat Bone, which is actually from, you know, from the folklore and the culture, and it's my title. I came up with the name of the book and the concept for the book, essentially. But these are monotypes. Now, these are not paintings, they're not pastels. They're monotype prints. I have an etching press in my studio as well, and they're created by painting with etching ink on plexiglass, and then cranking that plexiglass through your press with paper, of course, positioned on it, and lifting the image off the plexi onto the paper. And they're called monotypes because you usually get one image, and then once you've lifted the ink off the plexi, you're pretty much finished. Sometimes you can get a second impression, but I think 2 would be about the limit.
Yeah. Very effective.
So there, and these are, you know, these are great. I think the book, this is not the entire book, of course. Usually a picture book has, they try to keep them to 32 pages normally, and I would say probably 16 or 18 images.
Well, Gary, we mentioned Rolling Stone, and here on the review page is one of your pieces. They asked you to do a portrait of Sade, the singer, and here's your pastel. Nice work.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I love working for Rolling Stone. You know, they let you do what you do. They trust the hire, you know. They find the right artist and then get out of the way, which is the ideal client to work for. And the review that I was doing is called, it's for her latest CD, which, by the way, is a great CD. I actually love the music. And I knew who she was. I mean, I have 2 previous CDs. She only comes out with a CD every 10 years or so.
I know it's been about 10 years.
Yeah, but it's good stuff, and got really rave reviews. And it's called Soldier of Love, so that is why I decided to depict, well, you think of love, you think of soldiers, weaponry.
She's got the bow and arrows, and the wings.
And it all kind of came together. And then I'm inspired by an Art Deco figurine, a little Art Deco sculpture of a Cupid, which, you know, reminds me, I guess, how important art history is to my work. It's everything. I mean, I'm totally influenced by the history of painting and art in general. I love studying.
You know, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, because I'm going to ask you about Picasso, because some people may see a resemblance between some of your work and some of Picasso's. Before we leave this topic, though, this is the February 2010 Rolling Stone magazine that your work, that your portrait of Sade is in. If anybody wants to take a look at that. Okay, now, we also talked about some of your other commercial work. Your clients have included, and back to the music theme again, CD covers, which you probably really enjoy doing, because you just love musical artists, don't you?
Yeah, the right kind of music,
Up here.
I've never really, for what it's worth, I've never really gotten into country. I'm not a huge folky, but jazz, blues, some classical.
Wes Montgomery.
And, and Latin.
He had a style, has a style, which just is not, it can't be duplicated.
Yeah, this started out to be a series for Verve jazz label. Another one of my favorite clients, which has kind of dropped by the wayside here in the last couple months, really. They've cut way back. I mean, it's a sign of the times and of the music industry. But they had an art director named Hollis King that I love to work with, because he appreciated so much painting and drawing, and he collects art. He's still around, but now he's a consultant.
Do you still listen to Billie Holiday?
Yeah.
Looking over your left shoulder?
Yep. They were going to do a series of 20 of these, and these are little oil paintings for CD covers. It was going, and he wanted to, it was Hollis's idea to present them all as, because the series was all about these giants in the industry. And he wanted to present them as royalty. That was his idea. So here we are. I'm taking his idea, and I trust his judgment. You know, I trust his idea, and I'm trying to make the most of the concept of royalty. Of course, Billie Holiday is easy. I chose to do her as a bust, and let the orchid or the flower be real, and then Wes. I just tried, without going so far as putting a crown on him, I tried to give him a regal.
King Wes, and of course, she's immortalized now in stone.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, you can't get much more circulation than the postage stamp, and people may not have ever been aware that they might have known the person that made these sketches for these.
That's one thing with the postal service. They just don't promote the artists at all. It's all about the stamp, which is fine, but you will have, you know, it's the best-selling stamp of all time, from what I understand, is the Elvis stamp. Now, I didn't do it, but nobody knows the artist that did it. And of course, the artist was paid a flat fee, and that's, I mean, it's, you know, it's not really about the money so much, but when the stamp is released, there might be a tiny little byline at the very bottom of the press release that says who the artist was. So it's just, it's not an issue with them. They're fun to work for. I mean, I've got these. I have one coming out, portrait of Oscar Michaud.
I'm holding on to that right now. This will be your next one.
Which will be out. When's that coming out? I don't even know.
Let's see.
Sometime soon.
I can't tell from this. Oh, June 23rd, 2010. They're going to have to change the amount on here because postage is going up.
This is their
This
mock-up.
is only 44 cents, right? But this will be your next.
These are 32.
Yeah, and this is from 1998.
Yep.
But this will be in June of this year.
Yeah.
And people who can now say, I know the artist.
Well, and Oscar Michaud was a famous pioneer in black film. And I also have 4 more stamps that I can't talk about. They swear the artist to secrecy. That I think will be out probably in 20.
Congratulations.
Yeah, 2011, I think. Maybe 2012, but it's another sheet of 4. And they're not musicians, I'll tell you that much.
Well, Jim Finn, as we look at Gary's picture of Buddy Holly here, it's an interesting story as to how Gary Kelley ended up for this show in Decatur. You're the president of the Area Arts Council. You guys go way back.
Yes.
And there's a reason why we're showing Buddy Holly here, is because you're both from that northern part of Iowa where he would play.
Right. We grew up in a little town in northwest Iowa called Algona, Iowa, and the Surf Ballroom, which was the last venue that Buddy Holly played, was about 45 miles from our hometown. And as we got older, we would go over there and listen to various kinds of music, and particularly when we were in college, you know, lots of great bands played at the Surf, and we were fortunate enough to live in a little town that was close by.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now, you and Gary grew up, your whole lives you've been sort of close to one another.
Yes.
And you've kept track of one another. You've been in Decatur for decades, right?
Right, yeah. We've been in Decatur for as long, he's been in Cedar Falls for 40 years, and we've been in Decatur for 40 years.
Yeah. And he's got this sort of this work that takes him all over the country. But you were able to lure him back here to Decatur. How did that happen?
The old high school ties, I suppose. I guess we started talking a couple of years ago, and I said, you know, I'm going to be the Arts Council board one of these days, and we'd like to get a well-known artist, and Gary is certainly a well-known artist. And the more we talked, the more he said, well, I can probably work out something, and this show is the result of him working it out, and the two of us being able to get together and work it out.
Well, I think you're very fortunate to have his work lining your walls for this show, and of course him being a big name helps a little bit too.
Absolutely, yes, and we're looking forward to good turnout.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, Gary, we were talking about Picasso a little bit earlier, and he drew and painted some musicians as well, didn't he, in his career? And he, of course, had these geometric figures like you lean on a lot in your art.
Right.
This is cool because I know this was painted for this exhibit because it's the Decatur Dandies, isn't it?
Yeah, I did when I was asked to do this show. I decided on the musical theme because I knew that well, one thing I wanted to do was create some new work in a large format like this painting here, and then and the other thing I wanted to guard against was if I got behind on the schedule and wasn't going to get everything new accomplished I wanted to, that I would have a body of work to fall back on, and with music I do. And I had actually, we couldn't hang everything that I brought, almost, but not quite.
Yeah.
There are a couple pieces that didn't make the wall, but yeah. So this is definitely, you know, inspired by, if not Picasso directly, that period of the history of painting. I mean, I made a conscious decision probably 15 years ago to move in that direction. And up until that point, I had been a little more traditional, a little more impressionistic, or whatever you might want. I was a little bit of everything, and something grabbed me, and it's hard to explain. You know, it wasn't a financial decision. It wasn't a client decision or anything like that. It was strictly, it's time to do this. You know, I mean, I grew up. Every kid grows up knowing the name Picasso. But he really didn't mean that much to me until, you know, maybe the mid-'90s. And then all of a sudden something grabbed me and I thought, this guy is my hero.
A light went on.
It did totally.
Now I want the viewer to hold on to this image of this band posing, and then I want you and I to walk around here. In all of your other musical work, your musicians are into the moment. They're really into the music.
Yeah.
They're playing or they're singing or they're almost beside themselves with emotion. In that one, it's just a posing.
Yeah.
It's really different.
Yeah, well, one of the differences is in Decatur Street Dandies there, I created that for the show, for the exhibition, from a compilation of a couple of old photographs of New Orleans jazz players. And I happened to stay in a hotel on one of my many trips to New Orleans on Decatur Street. So I was looking for a connection with this place, and that was it. This actually is from some photographs I shot at the Mississippi Valley Blues Festival in Davenport up on the, you know, in July. I've been to 3 or 4 of those, and I love traveling with a sense of visual journalism. You know, I love traveling with a purpose. I love documenting the moment. This is the difference you were talking about. This is documenting a spontaneous moment. The painting we just saw is more a formal composition of some historic musicians. I was here. I was on Decatur Street, but those guys weren't there when I was there.
Gotcha. This is Quad City Blues, and that's oil on canvas. And then we're going to end up here for this little segment because you like these, again, to be able to do these big works as an illustrator, a lot of times you're somewhat inhibited. But when you're doing work for yourself, this is the kind of thing you can do.
This is done for the wall.
Again, for the wall. And again, you're these geometric shapes, in many cases, cubic.
Right, absolutely. This started out as a smaller pastel, like the Sade pastel for Playboy magazine. I think in the 90s they were doing a series called The History of Jazz and Pop. And they gave me a full page to work with, and they wanted a New Orleans brass band. And I had a blast composing the image from a lot of different resources. I was very happy with the finished piece. It won a prize in New York at the Society of Illustrators and all that. They put it in their permanent collection. And in the meantime, it's always been in the back of my mind. So here I come back now, probably 12 years after the fact, or 13, with this wall, and I've always wanted to do it as a large painting. And so I made a few changes. This is not exactly like the Playboy piece, but this is oil on canvas, of course. That is pastel. I improved, I think, on the Playboy piece with this one. But it really is all about, another one of my favorite painters is Pierre Bonnard. And like 1900 to 1940 probably his prime period. But he had a very profound, direct quote, composition is everything. And this is really, it's about the subject, but it's also a lot about the composition. And every part of this composition, every little subtle break on the edge or angle or shape is critical to me. I mean, it's very well planned. When I finish it, it gets a little bit spontaneous, but there's a pretty accurate drawing on paper that I start with, and then I transfer it to the canvas and lay down layer. There are a lot of different layers of color happening here too. I mean, this is not, say, gray paint out of the tube, paint this thing gray. This is like 3 or 4 or 5 colors under that to make that gray the way I want it. It's really, that's the beauty of oil. It's number one, it's the scale it affords you. Number two, it's the surface you can work with, and those are the two things you can't do with quite so much with pastel for reproduction as illustration.
If you want to see Gary Kelley's Blue Notes, you'll have to hurry. The show's only up here until the end of April. With another Illinois story in Decatur, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
For a DVD copy of this episode of Illinois Stories, send $19.95 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, broadcast date, and topic. You may also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605 or by using our secure server by going online to networkknowledge.tv.